Going on, guys? Ben from JK Gear and Gadgets. Today's video, I'll be installing 1/2-inch spring spacers on my Jeep. I'm doing this because after the winch and bumper install, my 4.5-inch lift seemed to have a little rake to it, just sagged a little bit in the front. So I'm going to add these 1/2-inch spacers on top. What I'm going to do in this video would be the same as if you're going to add a 2-inch spacer lift, 1-inch spacer lift. Same idea. So these coil spring spacers are simply going to sit in between the spring and the bucket. It's going to sit right on top of those springs, which is going to lift the Jeep up however many inches your spacer is. So before we get started on this, we are going to make sure that we have the rear wheels chalked so the Jeep won't go anywhere. And I'm going to do one side at a time. For some people it might be easier to do both, but starting out, I'm going to go ahead and loosen the lug nuts on this wheel, jack it up, take the wheel and tire off, and throw jack stands on the frame. Now that we got the tire off, the frame is resting on a jack stand, and the axle is supported by the jack. Our first steps is going to be remove these sway bar links. I actually have quick disconnects, so for me it's going to be really quick and easy to pop this, swing it out of the way. If you don't, you're going to use an 18mm bolt or 18mm socket and wrench to take the top one off or the bottom one off and just swing that sway bar link out of the way. Second, it's going to come over here to your shock absorber and undo the bottom mount, which is also going to be an 18mm. So we're going to disconnect these two and lower the axle down. As you can tell, the shock and the sway bar link are disconnected, allowing the axle to droop pretty much all the way to the ground. I lowered it with the jack, then slid it out. So the only thing really holding it in is the control arms. One thing, while you're lowering it, make sure that your ABS cable here and your brake line you don't want to put all the weight on those. I'm running 4.5-inch lift, so of course I have to drop it down a lot lower than you guys if you're doing this on a stock spring. But now that it's the spring is clearly loose, I'm going to set the camera up and try to snake that spring out of here. It can be kind of a pain in the ass to try to snake out of there, but we're going to do it. Before I do any of this, I have something else to install here. New hydraulic bump stops. So I'm going to do this side, not on the video. I will be making another video on the install. And I'll be doing that in the daytime over on the other side, probably tomorrow. Alright, so as you can tell, I got the hydraulic bump stop in and the spring back on. And TerraFlex recommends putting the spacer on top and then the factory isolator right there, the rubber one, on the bottom with the spring. And what we're going to do now is verify down here on the axle mount. You'll see there is a cutout for the spring, little spring guide. You want to make sure that end of the spring is sitting in that guide, and it's pretty obvious. And then up top here, while we're jacking it up, we're going to make sure that this spring stays centered inside the perch. It'll naturally want to find its own center, but we're going to make sure that happens. So what I'm going to do now, slowly jack it up, make sure that seat's right, and then we're going to come down here to our shock mount, find where it mounts to the axle, and slowly raise the axle up so it's easily you can easily slide the bolt through to the shock. So instead of trying to fight the shock, push it up or pull it down, we can use the jack just to bring that mount up. Now that we got our shock connected, our last step is going to be to reattach our sway bar link. What we're going to do is once again raise the axle up until the axle mounting point is going to reach our sway bar link. And that is it. We have added 1/2 inch to the front of the Jeep. As you can tell, super simple. It doesn't take that long. I even went ahead and added the hydraulic bump stop in there. And took me right around an hour and a half, and that's plus filming, which takes up a lot of time. So definitely a project you can do in your driveway. The rear is going to be very similar. Take the shock off, take the sway bar off, drop the axle, and install the spacer. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and definitely give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel so you can watch all my other videos. And yeah, I'm excited to test out these hydraulic bump stops, so I'll be doing an install video and review soon. So stay tuned for those. I'll talk more about those. But for now, my Jeep will sit half an inch higher right now on the passenger side until I do the other side. But super simple, doesn't affect the ride characteristics. And yeah, I mean, it's going to apply to a lot of other vehicles out there that are coil sprung. So hey, take care, guys, and check out the other videos. Thanks. Sitting half an inch higher, it's a lot more leveled out. It's not, doesn't have that you know, that forward lean to it. So raised it half an inch, super easy to install, as you can tell, and a good cheap mod, especially if you experience sagging springs in the front after a winch and bumper install, or if just your springs are getting a little bit old and they're sagging. You know, in this case, the metal coils, there's nothing wrong with them, just the added weight of the stuff on the front opposed to the more weight in the back just caused the front end to dive down a little bit. So it looks a lot better. And yeah, it's super simple, super cheap, and definitely if you're looking for some small spacers, half inch, I'll throw the link in the description below, and be sure to order them. Alright guys, take care.